Mike Lowell is on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop hundreds of Toyotas indoors in one of America's largest showrooms at Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. So Lowell is going to be out at Lone Depot Park Friday night. If you heard Juan Pierre earlier today on the radio station with Tobin and Leroy, Juan Pierre is going to be out there. Part of the Marlins Flashback Friday series. Yankees are in town. Lone Depot Park is going to be a madhouse this entire weekend. Fans can take photos with Mike and other alumni at the Marlins Museum starting at 5 p.m. Friday. And heads up, if you are going to any of the Marlins-Yankees games this weekend, check out marlins.com/transportation so that you could see all the ways to get to the ballpark so you don't get caught in all kinds of mad traffic there. So Mike Lowell is with us now. Hello, Mike.
Hey, what's up, Hawk? You know that those dining room Wi-Fi service always gets you.
Yeah, they also were changing out the tablecloths during the show last segment, and he's helping them. Crowder forgets oftentimes if there's live people around, he forgets that he's doing a radio show, and he just wants to be, smiling guy. He just texted, "I'm arguing with security now. Give me a second." So we'll see what transpires from there. Mike Lowell's with us. We were having this Crowder and I were having this conversation yesterday about Mount Rushmore of Marlins players, and I don't even know how did we get on that topic, Solana? Do you recall?
We were talking about Eury Pérez perhaps led into Dontrell Willis. Is Dontrell in the Mount Rushmore?
And then I thought it was going to be easy, right? But then it's not, because you got to have Conine in there. I would think people might argue you, Miggy, Dontrell, Jose, Pudge, Giancarlo, Beckett, Levon.
I throw Gary Sheffield in there.
Sheffield could be in there. Yeah, it's not as easy as I thought it would be. So the question is, would you be on the Mount Rushmore of the Miami/Florida Marlins?
I guess it depends how many family members can vote, because I think I'd get their vote, I hope. But
yeah, I imagine you would.
I mean, I think even Hanley Ramirez, could be considered. There's more than a handful of guys that had really nice careers with the Marlins. I think, bringing home a world championship, I think, has to have a little extra oomph.
That's what I think.
We'll see. I don't know.
You're on mine.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I was looking for a little something there. You're on mine. What has gone on with the Marlins after the All-Star break? How do you account from being so good going into the break, and it seems like everything's going the right way? You take the All-Star break, and the wheels come off, and they just can't get dubs.
Yeah, I think during every season, there's a team, no matter how good they're going. We talked about the Rays at the beginning of the season. 13-0, they're going to be unstoppable. And look at this, they're chasing the Orioles now. So I think every team goes through that kind of lull, that little bump in the road. I think the big thing with the Marlins is you don't have the huge big name guys or the depth on your roster to kind of lean on other guys. So when the depth becomes a little bit inconsistent, you get into these losing streaks, and you hope that you can kind of right the ship quicker than not. But it's one of those things where when one guy's pitching good, it gets a little contagious in a good way. But then when offense is struggling, it seems like it filters down to 7 out of the 9 guys. It's not just 2 or 3. So I'm hoping. I'm a little hesitant on when they had Eury Pérez. I know he threw yesterday. He did okay, but that's stopping and starting with a young guy. I understand we want to save the innings because he looks like he's going to be real special. But, man, taking him down to the minor leagues to do flat ground and one rehab start after he was doing so well, I don't know. I think it kind of kills the mojo of the whole thing. And for me, if you got something going good and you want to hold his innings, that's fine. Get to the playoffs, and then you can hold him there. Or is that going to make you resist the temptation and just use the guy? I've never been a big fan of that. You go back to Steven Strasburg, where they were like, hey, we're holding innings, we might get back to the World Series. Well, they were lucky, and Strasburg is hurt all the time. So there wasn't really enough data to say, hey, if we don't throw him 30, 40 innings, his arm's just going to be great for the rest of his career. I don't know. I don't buy into that totally.
Yeah, I use that Strasburg example all the time, because that, it is so hard. I mean, you won 2 World Series, but it is so hard to put together a World Series team and that Nationals team had an opportunity. And in my opinion, they kind of threw it away. But I'm kind of with you on Eury Pérez. And again, I don't know the ins and outs of baseball the way that you do, and certainly the Marlins front office. But for me, like, it's like, dude is throwing and he's looking good. Why break that up? I just don't understand it. But I don't even understand it. I'm real old school, Mike. Like, I don't even understand when a pitcher's throwing well in a particular game, and then they just decide, well, it's time for the setup man, and everything seems to go to hell.
Yeah, I think that's where, analytics has really taken over. And I think it's taken a little bit away from that old school mentality of the manager kind of has the best pulse on the team that particular game. Now, I've bought into the analytics are real good for evaluating things, during the course of the season. What can we do to put guys in the best position to perform? However, I go back to Blake Snell in the World Series with the Rays when they pulled him, and he had a 2-hitter. He never goes 3 times through the lineup. I said, well, how's he going to go the 3rd time through the lineup if you pull him? If he has his best stuff, isn't that the time he has to go the 3rd time through the lineup? And it's like, well, that's what we've done all year, but that doesn't mean it's the right call. There are certain days where your guy is on fire. Well, I got to ride that, especially when it comes to these games, August, September, when you're trying to get to the postseason. You don't have the luxury of saying, hey, we got 100 games down the road and we want to, get everyone fresh. This is the time where it's a little bit do or die because it can get away from you. I mean, look at the Marlins. They're still, I think it's a game and a half out of the wild card.
Yeah.
But things feel like it just feels like it's a lot more than a game and a half when you look back at where they were basically 2.5 weeks ago.
I mean, Louis Tiant was throwing 170 pitches a game, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I think the game's changed a little bit since then, but yeah, I think sometimes teams fall in love with, this is what we've done all year, and I'm like, I don't think that's the absolute solution. I don't feel it's a be all end all just because you've done it all year. The postseason is the way you approach those games is so different because it's 2 weeks. You don't stress a loss on a Tuesday night, May 10th, the same way you do if the series was tied 2-2 in the World Series. That one hurts. The other one you can handle.
Mike Lowell is with us. Are they a playoff team? Like I say, they're a game and a half back, which shows you, by the way, as bad as they've been after the All-Star break, it shows you how good they had been. The fact that they're still only a game and a half back after this nonstop losing, it feels like. Are they a wild card team in your estimation, or were they punching above their weight before the break?
No, I do think they have wild card ability because I look at it as if you go into a 5 or a 7 game series, are you really excited to face that staff? I know Sandy hasn't been himself, but Lusardo's been great. You got Perez as a hitter. I say, man, am I excited to face that rotation? Not really. There's guys that throw hard and they got real good stuff. So, I just don't know if that team has the offense to overcome when the pitching gets on a little bit of a lull. It's the Marlins are still, although they have some guys that can hit the ball out of the park, and I like seeing Sanchez and Dela Cruz and Soler, what they can bring to the table. Obviously, Arise is fantastic. It's fun to watch every at bat. But can they score enough runs to win, 8-6, 7-5 through, 7 to 10 days? But Hawk, with that being said, a game and a half, you go on an 8-2 run. Now you're 3 games up. So it could be quick. This could look really good in the next 7 to 10 days, or it can get really bad. It could be a real uphill climb.
How excited are you for Friday night? That 0-3 team had some real fun personalities on it. I told you I was listening to Juan Pierre earlier. How excited are you for Friday night? Flashback Friday at Lone Depot.
Yeah,
Park.
I'm excited. I actually was talking to Josh Beckett and Carl Pavano. They're coming in, so I haven't seen them in a while. I know some guys have stayed local, obviously, like Juan Pierre and Jeff Cohenheim. But that team, when I look back, basically besides Pudge and Niner, there was no playoff experience. So we kind of had this real good attitude of no one's rooting for us except our own fans, and no one's expecting us to do anything. So why don't we just do it? I think you take a lot of pride in proving people wrong. And I think the biggest thing was I remember our first, advanced, scout meeting once we got to the World Series, and it was David Wells, and I actually played with David Wells when I was a call-up with the Yankees. And believe it or not, despite his size, he moves really well off the mound. So the scouting report was no one had gotten a bunt base hit off him all year, so we cannot bunt. So what does Juan Pierre do the second pitch of the game? Bunt base hit. So it was kind of that mentality where we're playing our game. Either you're going to beat us or not, but we're going to play our game, and we'll see what happens. And it was such a cool ride for me, especially growing up in Miami. I mean, I got my parents, my brothers, my sister, my friends, all the people that saw me play Little League. To see me actually play in a World Series was really cool, and something that I'll cherish my whole life. That's for sure.
Yeah, that 03 team was something special. And it was like nobody believed it until it happened. You're right. There wasn't a single baseball analyst or fan that was picking the Marlins or rooting for the Marlins, except here in Miami. And that was a fun World Series. Mike Lowell, he will be at Lone Depot Park Friday night. It's part of the Marlins Flashback Friday series. And you can take photos with Mike and other alumni at Marlins Museum starting at 5 p.m. He's also going to do an interactive Q&A with other players and fans at 5:45. And again, one more reminder, if you're going to any of the Marlins-Yankees games this weekend, go to marlins.com/transportation so that you don't get caught in the worst traffic of your life. Certainly the worst traffic of the season is going to be this weekend at Marlins Park. Mike, thank you for joining us, and I know Marlins fans are looking forward to seeing you on Friday.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Hawk. Appreciate it.
And Crowder sends his regards. He's arguing with his security guard.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Mike Lowell there, World Series champion with your 2003 Marlins.